So first of all, this is a way better movie than that Jennifer Lopez movie that came out a while ago. It's not better than Extraction 2, but it's way better than that. I thought it was called Mother or something. So it stars Gal Gadot, and I was looking forward to it. Now, my first impressions were that this is more of Mission Impossible 7 clone. It's pretentious in how it tries to tackle the spy espionage theme, and for most people it will be convoluted. What they did not do right in terms of emulating Mission Impossible is just how Mission Impossible works hard to simplify things, especially the MacGuffin. Judging from Mission Impossible 7, they spent the first 25 minutes just establishing the MacGuffin and establishing what it's capable of doing. So you as the viewer, when you go in, you don't wonder what this thing is about. But Heart of Stone is such an unnecessarily convoluted movie. There's a lot of things going on. It takes you through a lot within the movie. Actually, I thought I watched a show with 2 episodes. Let me put it this way. It's an aircraft that explodes somewhere in the middle of the movie. And from the start to that point, it felt like it was one movie. And after they jump off and land in a desert, up to the end, that felt like a totally another different movie. Actually, I thought that half was the end of one different movie and the beginning of a totally different movie. That's how I felt. And apart from the action sequences, sometimes I felt like explaining to me like almost everything. So generally, what worked? The cinematography. I would say there's some very beautiful shots, wide shots, especially when they go to this snowy place and the desert shots. I don't know if it's a sunset or a sunrise. When they're in this craft, it's beautifully shot. Some areas are CGI, but generally it's a very good looking movie. There's one, my favorite shot in this movie was one, it's a very short, like a second shot. Gal Gadot is in a swimming pool and she's talking to someone, and then the camera is just slightly above the water and there's the blue, and then you can see Gal Gadot, her reflection, and the person that she's talking to above from the side. That it shows in such a way that it looked so beautiful, and I actually appreciated that about that particular scene. Other scenes that were kind of cool was the snowy areas where they would there was a bike chase and shot from a distance, which looked, and the winding roads, it looked kind of cool. And again, it reminded me of Mission Impossible, the 5th one, but they did it way better in Mission Impossible than this. Outside that, the other thing that worked was the performances, I think. And first of all, Gal Gadot is a superstar. And when you watch this movie, you'll understand why. She absolutely owns the camera. And I think it's with Gal Gadot, for me personally, what makes her a good actress is the small things that she does. There's a part that she swipes a card in one of those card things. And it's such a simple act, but she makes it interesting. And it's, again, a split second. And the way she reacts, and the way she's able to own that character of Stone. And she sets herself apart from all the other actors. And watching this, I would go like, wow, she actually deserves to be called whoever she is, because she's actually, you can see the stardom in her within this film. I'm not saying that the other people who are weak in terms of performances. They were what I would call okay, because they felt more like they worked with what the script expected them to do and what the director wanted them to do. There was no effort to do those small things that make a character, feel like they own that particular character. I liked the action sequences. I wasn't really impressed by them. They were really vanilla. As much as they tried to show them to be like super gritty, but they were still vanilla. They felt like they belonged within that universe, and they did not make an effort to do something different. They did not push the action like the way Tom Cruise's movies usually push the action to the limit, or make an action feel intense. Which now leads me into what I did not actually really like. One thing, the score. The music is okay. They have a lot of 80s music, like two songs from the 80s that were surprising to me and were pleasant, and how they play into the scene. I think that was wonderful. But the score for me sometimes was off. The score devalues the action set pieces. I wish that they would have action set pieces without any score. Let the chaos of the moment be the score. That would help in immersing us into whatever is happening. Because most of the time I was like, okay, this whatever this score that they're playing in the background to make a scene feel more intense than it is, just simply dilutes whatever I'm looking at. I wish, in fact, the scene in Lisbon whereby they're in a house and they get attacked by these special forces, and they have such an intense, in the kitchen you can hear things fall, you can hear knives being drawn out. I wish they would just nuke the score and let those soundtracks, that the environment, the ambience of the action, just be the sound, the score within those particular action set pieces. There's one that I really love with a car, with a van. I felt like it was a bit slow until they go out into this open area and their van is sandwiched by two cars, and the driver, Gadot, does something. Storm does something, and the cars are pushed to the side and they do something, and the van keeps moving, and then you can see something happen in the background. That was pretty cool. Outside that, I really did not like how Gal Gadot was there to save everyone. For me, that didn't make sense, because I think the director or the writer of the script or Netflix felt like they really needed to push her. Because she was one of the selling point of the movie, so you get to see a lot of her saving the day, saving people who necessarily don't need saving. And I was like, okay, I get what you're doing, but can't we have, for example, when they're escaping with the van, someone else do it or something? Can't we help someone come in to actually help her out? I was like, okay, you're trying to do that Bond thing, but the only difference with Mission Impossible and the Bond, and I'm not talking about all Bond, I'm talking about Casino Royale and GoldenEye Bond specifically. At some moments they feel vulnerable. They feel like they're actually, they actually feel like they're going through something and actually need help, and they only narrowly escape through things. But here she's presented, she has the Superman syndrome, which is she's indestructible, she can get over everything, she cannot actually get hurt apart from one particular scene. The other thing I had an issue with was, this is a Netflix show, and they feel important to have inclusion and diversity, because the more people you reach, the more money that you make. And it seemed for me at some points you had some unnecessary things, bloated. I was talking about this movie being a bit bloated and unnecessarily complex, because they have moments where they have this diversity theme and you feel that it prolongs everything. They have this Asian lady who is in that Lisbon scene, and she does a lot of fight scenes, and I was looking at those fight scenes and I was like, by the time they were leaving to go into the van, she should have broken her ribs, she should have had a concussion based on the kind of action that they had in the house. But they walk out, they go into the van, and in the van they're being thrown around, right? And she opens the door at one particular scene, grabs the gun, then starts shooting at these people in motorbikes. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But me, as a person who has directed a movie before, I was like, that's a continuity problem, because if someone took so much action in the house, she shouldn't, and she's in a moving car, she shouldn't be able to do some of the things that she did with that gun. And note, during the same period, you have two guys who didn't have any action in that house. In that room, they didn't fight or do anything. One of them, unfortunately, was like exposed to a smoke gun and passed out for a while, and the other was just shooting around. And so you have those two people in the same van. I wish the director would have gone like, yeah, she can't actually handle that, or she tries to shoot and falls off because she has taken so much hits that maybe she has broken something. And so one of these male characters who has not had any action take the gun and actually, shoot at the back. So at those moments, that's where I felt, at moments like that, that's when I felt like, diversity and inclusion. They need to, show that we are not just showing an Asian person. Let's put her into action before whatever happens. In conclusion, I feel that this movie would have done really well with Martin Campbell. I think it would have worked perfectly if it was given to Martin Campbell, because Martin Campbell understands how to do espionage movies. I mean, GoldenEye, he's done a lot of movies, but if you look at GoldenEye and Casino Royale, and you look at what they were going in this movie borrows a lot from that, concept-wise. Because you have Stone, who feels more like a Bond character, and you even have the IT guy in the desk. If you remember GoldenEye, you remember the guy with the pen. You have the boss, all golden eyes, the M. It just felt like that, but it lacked that energy, that drive, that that oomph that makes Casino Royale and Golden Eye feel so good and so much rewatchable, because the actions don't feel light, the action don't feel vanilla. They actually feel like they have an impact, and this movie actually lacked that. But generally, it is where it's supposed to be. I'm not saying that the director Tom Harper did a bad job in this particular movie. He actually did a great job, because it's a very enjoyable movie. Overly convoluted, but it's actually a really well shot, competently directed movie. But I think Martin Campbell would have done a way better job. Something I forgot to mention in my bats, the script is pathetic. And that's why I was so impressed by Gal Gadot's performance. If it was someone else who was delivering those lines, it wouldn't have worked, because the script is very, 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 very poor. The script is, I'm actually totally impressed by what they were able to do, the actors. And you will see some familiar faces in this movie. There is the guy from Army of Thieves. He's the guy on the seat. And again, going into it, this borrows a lot from Mission Impossible. I'm sorry, I'm taking you back to what I did not like. There's some things that I had forgotten. This takes you back to Mission Impossible 7 with this thing called Heart. I think it's called Heart. It almost the same concept, but it was done way better in Mission Impossible than it was done here, than it was done in this particular movie. Now, all the people did not have personalities. Yes, Gal Gadot, they tried to give her personality, but it almost felt like all the characters were flat. They lacked personality. I wish they would have given the characters, and that's where Martin Campbell comes in, because Martin Campbell has a way of giving characters personality in such a way that you can actually differentiate them. I had a hard time differentiating the people with beards, because they would pop up and you'd go like, wait, this person looks like the person that I saw in this particular scene, but this is a flashback, it can't be that person. And then you randomly see another person with a beard somewhere, a pilot, and you go like, wait, is this the same person who was in that flashback, or was he the same person who got killed, or who is this? And then you're like, oh, it's a pilot, but they kind of look the same, but they don't act differently. So there's that flat feel in terms of personality. Now, if I was the one who directed this movie, I would have given the AI, because it's about AI basically, I would have given the AI a bit of personality, so that they can interact with the guy from Army of Thieves, so that it can just give that relationship between him as the AI person who controls this thing, and that thing being controlled, and everyone wanting that thing. A bit of interest, and an interesting take on it not just being AI, and tapping into what the system actually, thinks or is processing, basically. Because I felt like, despite the fact that they were talking about AI, it never at one point felt like a threat, and at no point did I feel like I understood what this AI thing was, because it's the same thing that you're told, oh, AI can be dangerous, computers will reach a point whereby they become a national risk, that kind of a thing, and you go like, this is the same thing done the same way. So if I was the one who was directing it, I would have given that AI a bit of personality, so that when it's stolen by these people who steal it, you can actually see how it thinks, and how it can become dangerous, or how it can become actually useful. The other thing that I would have done, if I was the one who was directing this movie, I would have given the people costumes, because the costume department, okay, and that goes into personality, the way the people look like, and the way they behave, and the way they look at, because again, something that Mission Impossible does very well, they're able to differentiate each character by the costume and by the way they act and talk and react, their personalities basically. Because my goodness, I had a difficult time separating things in this movie, just getting to know who's doing what. That was a bit of a challenge. Not that it wasn't done well, it was done well, but it could have been done better. In terms of performances and some characters that I did not understand, the WTF in this movie was the Indian. There's an Indian lady, and I'm like, what's her role in all this? Yes, I understand that she's supposed to do something, But at the end of the day, I was like, wait, this story can actually do without her. Because you technically need that one guy to get it and do whatever he's supposed to do, but you always need this nerd who can do something else. But when they go to that particular area, they find that there's her and then there's another lady who's wearing a sweater who's doing the same job. So I'm like, there's a part that, and that's what I'm saying. This movie was overly unnecessarily convoluted, but generally enjoyable. It is where it's supposed to be. It's on Netflix. You don't have to pay for it to see it on theater. And yeah, I would give this a 2 out of 5. This is just an enjoyable movie. I don't think it's rewatchable, but it's another enjoyable Netflix production. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'm in a different environment, that's why this is not my normal setting. Thanks for watching, and I'll probably remember to always watch what you enjoy and enjoy what you watch, and I will see you on the next one. Please subscribe.